Good morning, Max. I'm doing great. I'm always doing great. What's going on in your world?
Well, I have a story to share. If it's okay, I'd like to jump on the couch. It's a good and bad story.
It's a travel story.
How did you know?
Up on the couch. Let's discuss it. I need to listen to that.
I am what I am, as Popeye says. Interestingly, this story is actually a continuation of the same trip from my last story, where I talked about my experience in the hotel.
The con guy.
Yeah.
The bribery guy. I remember that.
The bribery guy, yeah. So this is another New York story, obviously. When I left the hotel, I had an early flight, so it's just after sunrise, and I'm on the street in Manhattan, flagging down a cab. I don't remember why, but there was like a bellman, and I could have used that, but I just walked down the street a little bit and flagged down a cab on my own. And so I flag the cab, pull up. It's a woman. I open up the trunk. I put my stuff in it. I close it. I get in the back. She says, "Where are you going?" I go, "JFK." She goes, "Fuck!" Just like that. And I'm like, okay. So I sat very quietly down in my seat, and after, and it was a 40-minute ride or something. It was, it's not close to downtown. So we're going along, and after a little bit, she just got, "I really owe you an apology. I'm really sorry. But when someone accepts a fare, I have to take them. This was literally my last ride of the day. I've got some family stuff I'm doing this morning. I was expecting 3 blocks down the street, and then I'd go home, and now I'm going to be an hour late to this thing that's going on, and that's not your fault. That's not your problem, and I apologize." And then she started talking me up. We talked about family. We talked about what the event was. She got me there on time. To follow up from the last one, I gave her a big old tip just because we bonded so much. So, what started as the ultimate negative New York, where she's just screaming obscenities, ended up being a nice connection, because she kind of backed down, and absolutely inexcusable behavior. I'm sure if I were to be able to identify her and make that public, she would have been fired in 2 minutes after something like that. But very human. And, the fact that she was so kind of contrite and ended up seeming like a really warm, neat person. And, we had enough time to talk and kind of overcome all of that. So I didn't realize how short that story was. It's a very short story, but it kind of a different sort of customer experience all the way around.
What I love about what you said is the fact that something can start wrong, but human connection makes a difference.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I'm sorry if I have to do that, but I'm gonna bring it back to my world, which is probably the call and contact center world. Very often we talk about how important it is to do self-service. And that's very true from both a customer perspective and a company perspective. When self-service is done well, that's probably the best thing to do, because if you have a very clear, dynamic FAQ, if your website is crystal clear, if people just find answer to their question without even having to call you, you've probably done something right. So self-service is great. It saves your agent's time and therefore your company's money, and it saves customers time. They don't need to wait. They find the answer. Everyone is happy. That being said, self-service will never replace the importance of human connection. And human connection, I mean actual human connection, not when you use your agents as machines where they, just need to follow exactly the script.
Well, here's the script and check the box,
and you ask them to disconnect their brain for during the duration of the working hours, where they cannot make a decision, they cannot show empathy of any sort, they just have to follow the script. That's not what I call human connection. So let's forget about that piece. But when you actually genuinely empower your agents, you find out that not only they manage to solve your customer's problem, but they can actually build a relationship where that customer is probably going to turn into a loyal customer or maybe refer your brand or whatever that is. I remember a story you told me where you spent, can't remember, 10, 11, 12 hours on the phone with an Indian
Yep.
customer support, technical support agent of some sort, where you guys ended up talking about your holiday and what you like to do in your free time and this kind of stuff. Even in the worst situation, and that was a pretty bad start. I mean, the
Yeah.
driver
Yeah.
swearing.
I was not a happy camper when that call started.
But you ended up, you know, getting to know someone, building a connection, and okay, you're not going to be a repeat customer because that's the way that taxi business is, and you don't live in New York anyway. But you left a pretty nice tips, which you usually only do when you get a nice upgrade in the local hotel. But but that's a great story because it shows how important human connections are, and that can happen over the phone. That's probably where it's the easiest way to do, or face to face, obviously, over the phone when you're in a call center. I do believe it can also happen over text. Because we're so used to, sharing emotions and messages through Facebook Messenger,
Sure.
WhatsApp, SMS.
Sure.
It's probably less obvious, but it can happen through text. But it does not happen when you don't let people speak for themselves and be empowered. And that's what I love about your story. It's not so much that she ended up apologizing for it, which I think is great, that's the right attitude, but it's the fact that human connection actually saves the day. That's a beautiful story from that perspective.
Yeah. And it strikes me, we're 5-10 years from automated cabs. And that's the perfect analog to your self-service versus talking to an agent and really being able to connect is it won't be unhappy when it picks me up because it's not going to miss a family party. But there isn't going to be that human connection. And, it makes me think about Uber where there are drivers who really try and they've got water for you or little snacks and things. And they really just in a 3-minute car ride do everything they can to build a inviting customer experience. And yeah, you're so right. In the contact center, building that out, it's so there's nothing better for the brand. There's just literally nothing better for the brand than having it be that kind of a connective experience.
And it actually reminds me, you're talking about automation, cab automation. I'm not sure we're that close to that, but maybe we are. I used to take the train quite a bit in my early years when I was still a young lad. I used to take the train quite a lot, and you usually don't hear the train driver, right? Why would you? The very
Right.
few times you would hear the train driver is when he, want to announce some kind of bad news or just announce the terminus or whatever that is. Some of my best experiences in a train is when the train driver actually take the mic and make some joke of some sort, because even when the situation is bad, the train is late, people are frustrated, they are getting angry, this guy find a way to put some humor into it and build that human connection. Everyone laughs, everyone is happy. I remember one day the train was so packed because of some strike, everyone was angry, everyone was sticking with each other in the train, and everyone was ready to explode. This guy called the entire train, leaving a loud message saying, I'm sorry, if that gentleman with a large belly could just pull it in so that the doors can close, we could actually leave on time. Everyone cracked. Everyone was laughing so hard, and the whole tension got released. I'm not saying it's a good joke. That was probably a terrible joke. But at least, that human connection, that makes a major difference. And that sticks to people's memory. That builds a brand in some way.
So, all right, I know we're right up on time, but I'm going to ask you one last quick question. When I'm out there doing the stuff I do, I talk a lot more about human connection in the contact center and focusing on that and being customer centric. Do you think that's really happening? Or do you think I just happen to be talking to the right people because of what I do for a living?
Well, you talk to a lot of people because of what you do for a living. So you see every few nice stories and you tend to remember the nice stories because that's different. I don't see that happening much. And I think, unfortunately, that's usually because you hire someone who is exceptionally good as a human being, and therefore they don't care whether you empower them or not. They just
do
speak
it.
and they just do it because they were born for that. I think too few companies encourage people to be empowered and to go beyond. There are a few companies out there that do it very well, but I wouldn't say that the norm quite yet, unfortunately.
All right. Well, I guess we should end with, if you're a contact center manager and you're listening to this, think about it, won't you?
Empower your people. Exactly.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Max. Do you feel better about that?
I feel great. It wasn't exactly an awful story, but it certainly had a scary moment, and I was able to relive that. And I think it helps with the PTSD. So yeah, I appreciate it.
Perfect. Then let's take a week to recover, and let's talk again next week then. Thank you,
Sounds
Max.
great. Thanks, Julian.
All right.
Bye.